I was trying to remember, is this your third or fourth appearance on the Dynasty?
I don't
One
know.
of our one of
It's
our
far too many.
one of our
You're not
very
putting
favorite
any
guests.
effort. You're not
Yeah.
putting any effort into guests. It's at least the third.
No, it's far too many for you. It's like far more than any doctor or psychiatrist would ever recommend you spend with such ne'er-do-wells as us. But we're very pleased to welcome back Reid Wilkins to Handkerchief Dynasty, episode 116, another sexily visual edition for YouTube. We're now getting upwards of tens of views on YouTube, so pretty much ready for early retirement. I think I'll just be waiting for Eric Schmidt to be sending me those direct deposits right
So
away
when
here.
did you start doing video?
Like about 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Okay, so I have a real background.
Oh yeah.
What's behind you? Like, is it going to show up in these two Zoom boxes?
To be honest, like let me see. I don't know if I can actually here. Yeah, you'll just see like a wall, right?
Oh,
And then there's some stuff. Honestly, if the camera was tilted down at all, you would also see a bunch of cardboard boxes that are like in various states of emptiness. Because I got a bunch of equipment delivered today.
okay.
Yeah, I'm
I thought
starting.
maybe you moved.
I have recently moved. I like to stay mobile. Like right now, I'm in the depths of Edmonton Oilers fandom despair. That you can just forward my mail directly there. Although to be honest, both me and the High Priest of Oilers Magic took this whole 3-game skid against the Leafs very, very, very well.
Oh, really?
So yeah, big time. Well, ultimately, I don't know. But he was saying he thought I was taking it too well. I mean, I was saying basically there's almost nothing less important in life than the divisional regular season standings in an NHL hockey season. Like once the playoffs roll around, nobody's gonna care about who won the division ultimately.
True.
And it was disappointing 3 games.
Don't you feel a little nauseated that the Leafs are that good and they did that 3 games in a row?
Oh, greatly, but I mean, like, let's not be ridiculous. Of course. I mean, like, honestly, I'm, I'm retching. Like, if you've listened to last night's episode, there's a lot of me going, ugh, ugh, like, physically convulsing in disgust. I don't know. Like, what are you gonna do? And it's like, we may never see a 3-game series against any Eastern Conference opponent like this again in our lifetimes.
Ottawa.
I mean, boy, after this season, though, yeah.
I know. I'm just speaking.
Ottawa. Can you imagine? I mean, really, like if we lose 2 of those games to Ottawa, then there'll be cause for concern. But
yes,
3 games is 3 games, and it's not as though. See, this is where I find it be really funny because I feel like when we go on a good run, I think possibly because we've had so much. We've struggled so much in the last like 10 years that once we do put together a run of 10-2 or whatever, we finally we like let's exhale a little bit and we're like, okay, finally the pain is over, but we also grab onto the idea that the team has arrived too soon. Like we clearly were not as good as our record indicated,
well, of course not,
nor as bad as with the 3-6 start. So I'm comfortable with us being second fiddle in Canada for this year. I think that's probably like the way things are going to shake out at best. We're competing for second. I think we're in third now behind Winnipeg, right?
Yeah, well, they're fourth in points percentage. Yes, that's what I've been using.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're competing for probably 2 through 4, unless Winnipeg and Toronto still play each other 9 times. So unless Winnipeg dominates that series, Winnipeg probably still can't catch Toronto for first, but then Winnipeg will get second, and then it'll be Montreal, Edmonton, and maybe Calgary for 3, 4, and 5. I am writing off Ottawa, and I'm already writing off Vancouver.
Sure.
As playoff contenders, not as they're never going to win a game or beat the Oilers, but as playoff contenders. It's too much. They're too far down already.
Well, I'll be honest, the halfway mark of this season really snuck up on me. Like it flew right past, and I feel like it hasn't even soaked in that, the season's half over already. Like really, we should be talking about what our trade deadline strategy is, whether that's even going to be much of a thing with the quarantine and whatnot. I'd love to see Kenny make another move, even though it kind of blew up in his face last year with the pandemic coming about. I think it really sent a message to the guys last year that he wanted to get them some help, and he believed in them if they just got a little bit more help in some key positions, some key areas. I mean, 1 top 6 forward, 1 goalie one third line center, and this team probably has a little bit of a different jam,
Mm-hmm.
So, but
Yeah,
it's a hard season to trade though, so we can't really expect the cavalry coming in.
Very hard. Yeah, I mean, I guess the one name I come up with in Canada is if you could pry Brandon Sutter out of Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that could help a little bit. It's too bad Turris hasn't really grabbed it. I'm not sure he's going to at this point, but yeah. I mean, it's tough. I mean, it's such a wild swing, right? Because after the games last Tuesday and Thursday in Vancouver, it was really funny because like one guy called in and he was really excited and he started congratulating me and Rob.
Okay.
I was like,
on what?
I'm not sure. I think
like
just
pending
being on air after an Oilers game. I think he was just so excited that he probably was just congratulating everybody that he knew. and then he was like, well, and it's funny because like he said it so matter of fact. He's like, well, they're probably going to go to the Stanley Cup final.
Like, Oilers
so
or the Leafs.
The Oilers after beating Vancouver twice and being 11-2 in 13 games. Like he was so, and I was glad he's excited. And then sometimes in those situations, I feel like, well, I don't want to
probably
burst his bubble, but I was like, well, let's just, you know what? Let's just bank these points and keep building and face the next challenge, which is the Maple Leafs. And that's also my attitude now. They've lost 3 in a row. Okay, you got 0 points in 3 games. What are you going to do?
What are you specifically
like give up? Like that's not a solution. What was on your cup that you were showing me?
That's my Starbucks cup. I'm trying to because it does trippy. It's like because like
I'm moving my head.
It's interfering with the virtual background, so I'm trying to add some audio visual. There you go. It's like what city is this? Because Starbucks has those cups where it's like the different locations. It's like probably the only Starbucks mug that I really like actually.
No, you are not. The way I understand it, you and the other guy, what he is, the
High Priest of Oilers Magic.
Yes, I was going to call him the demon spawn of Oilers Magic. You guys are not earthbound beings, as I understand it. Like you.
Well, it's interesting you should ask.
Interdimensional.
I mean, it was really funny when I called into Overtime Open Line, and I asked a question. I made a little joke, and then you were like saying how you didn't know, you'd never seen me, so you had no idea if I like physically existed or if I was a real professor. There was a question of whether the secret professor's credentials were really in order. Still an open question.
You called last night, but I guess
I had to go though. I realized I had to drop the call. Yeah, no, I had to drop that because we had some company and there was a cake that needed to be presented in a celebratory fashion.
You left a birthday party, is what you're telling me, to try to get on Overtime Open Line? That is amazing dedication to being an Oilers fan.
It's an amazing something, is what it is. Amazing indication of my obsessive nature or my obsession of trivia. I mean, I'm sure I'll call in again soon. I mean, this is the thing though, and this is why we love having you on Handkerchief Dynasty, is you have the people's post-game call-in show. I don't want to name any names, but someone like Gazzola, they're more in the patrician, genteel post-game show for the upper crust, for the upper classes, for those who don't want to listen to the unwashed, call in and give their 2 cents. I don't even know if there is another post-game show. Well, I guess Cult of Hockey, but Cult of Hockey can be a little bit of a cult too. You get in there, all of a sudden they're asking you all kinds of personal questions and seeing if you want to recruit your friends, or sign up for more seminars and whatnot.
Yeah, I have no knowledge of the other post game shows, and I've never thought about it being the show of the people. It's I just think about doing a good show. One person or a million listening. It's got to be a good show.
For sure. Well, you achieved that. Like, what's it been like after these 3 games? Like, how have you found the callers? Have they had a pretty even keel, or is it? Because I feel like, and the High Priest mentioned this last night, and he's totally right. There's been plenty of 3-game losing streaks in the past where you felt way worse about the team and where it was at, how it was playing, than this 3-game stretch. There's been way, way worse 3-game skids in even recent history.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, big time. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, as much as it's very frustrating, all 3 games were blowouts. Like the Leafs are a very good team, and this wasn't one of those nights where it's like the Oilers were 28th and they were playing the 25th place team, and you're thinking, okay, they might actually be able to beat them. Like there's only they're not that, and then it would be like 6-1 for the other shitty team. Am I allowed to say that?
Oh yeah, fuck yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, good.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think, yeah, I don't know. See, you've asked me that before. People ask me that, like, well, how do people feel? And I'm always like, well, I don't know. I don't know every single person's feelings. Like, and and after a game, people aren't like sports. I always say this: sports fans aren't rational, and I don't mean that everybody who is a sports fan isn't rational, but that part of your brain that you dedicate to being a sports fan is not rational.
Absolutely.
Like no matter what you do for a living, how intelligent you may or may not be, or street smart or whatever, right? So the first 30 to 120 minutes after a game, or maybe till the next morning, like that's the least rational. That's when the irrational part of your brain takes over. So that's why sometimes I feel like, well, like sure, people were pissed off, and I got an amazing email last night. Can I read it? Because I didn't read it on air because I didn't want to open the door. But I'll
special
read it
Handkerchief Dynasty exclusive. Thank you, Reid.
I sent you that voicemail that one day from that.
Yeah, the legendary voicemail. That was a good one.
Yeah, that was a good one. Okay.
I think the world's made of hockey players.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a little length. Well, it's about a minute probably to read. Hi,
Please.
Reid. I won't give even the first name of the person that sent it. It'll just be totally anonymous. After the pathetic and disgraceful performance against the Leafs these past 3 games, perhaps it's time we all make it a mandate to take the Oilers for task for being an embarrassment to this city. To me, the Oilers players collectively are front runners who cannot battle through adversity. Their hockey IQ is laughable, and the players we have are not cerebral. In many ways, they are pretty dumb and narrow-minded, and above all, give Edmonton a bad name. There's no leadership or accountability on the players' part. I believe we all should come to the realization that McDavid is not a true leader who can inspire his teammates. Bob Nicholson should be fired for hiring all of the wrong people in this organization, which includes Ken Holland. Look at the mess he left behind in Detroit. The players we're saddled with don't listen to the coaches, refuse to play defense, show a complete disregard for making adjustments, and fail to learn from mistakes. All of that ties into culture and attitude. That is the paramount issue with the Oilers. They only play well when things are spoon-fed and made easy for them. And the final line is quite classic, I think. A Mayo Clinic should be on the to-do list for projects in the Ice District. And then
a Mayo Clinic?
A Mayo Clinic, yeah, apparently is what's needed. Now, this is one of those I kind of just offer it without comment.
But wait, why do they need to do some kind of medical research?
Yeah, I don't know. And again, that's the hard thing about interacting with people through writing. I mean, maybe in this person's mind, this is completely sarcastic and tongue-in-cheek, or maybe this is the angriest words this person has ever put to paper.
Well, it's interesting. Yeah. It's interesting the way you put that, because it reminds me of something I heard on a podcast I was listening to recently, where this person was talking about when you look at like a lot of people are worried about online conspiracy focus groups and whatnot right now, rightfully probably. This writer was saying that like when you really ask those people if they believe that Britney Spears is being mind controlled by Disney and it wears off after 7 years and that's why she started acting different, they deep down know it's probably not true. But they're into it because it's fun. I feel like there's kind of a similar dynamic with sports in like a letter like that. Like that person, you're right. It's hard to know whether they're being completely sincere, in which case they're probably living a horrible and depressing life if that's who they really are. Or it's that irrational part of their brain that they're just letting play out and just vent the frustration of from the loss or whatever, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think sometimes and I mean, I think I've been guilty of it too in my life as more of a fan, which I don't really consider myself when I'm doing the job. But you latch on to one thing, right? And you only see the things that support your one thing. I mean, I had a guy last week writing into the show, and this was when the Oilers were 11-2. This was before they had played the Leafs. Which I was really surprised. He was like, McDavid is not a leader. McDavid, they will never win with McDavid. And I'm just like, how are they
qualified? Like, how are they qualified to make that statement? Like,
yeah, and I said that to the guy. I was like, well, you're not in the dressing room, so which I'm not either. But everything that people have told me, both on and off the record, have said Connor McDavid is a great human being and is mature beyond his years, and he treats his teammates well. And it's like, okay, so I challenged this person and I said, okay, so let's look at all the things we've talked about since they made the playoffs in 2017. Coaching carousel. no depth, poor defense, no goaltender. All those things, and you're saying, nope, those are irrelevant. Captain is shitty. That's why they're losing.
Well,
and again, I'm sure deep down that person knows that, but they just want to latch onto that one thing because it's easier to just pick one thing and not think about the whole picture.
Well, again, and it's like the same standard of evidence that a conspiracy theorist would have, because like you can say, oh, like character and leadership and discipline. These are generic criticisms that anyone could make about anybody at any time, ultimately. And there's always a little bit of truth to it. That's what makes it work, right? Is you can there's times where there is a problem with someone's character or leadership or whatever. Certainly not the case with Connor McDavid. I think it's ridiculous to question his character. I think it's completely above reproach. But yeah, like you're going to see people who are leveling these kinds of criticisms really, and it is just about them venting their frustration, and they're making criticisms that anyone could make, about anything. Like if you wanted to say, if you were really into QAnon or whatever, and then someone said, oh, that's bullshit, which it is, you could say, well, you don't believe that like the powerful make decisions behind closed doors in secret. Well, like, oh, okay, well, of course you do, right. And of course leadership matters and character matters, but like anyone could write that email. The fact that they said that they're an embarrassment to the city is hilarious to me, because like the Oilers are one of the best things about Edmonton. One of the main draws, probably one of the most it's like an like when they're doing well, especially, it's like a fountain of joy is provided to the whole populace practically.
Right.
It's a whole different city when the Oilers are winning. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I think they're just like frustrated, and I would be surprised if the person who wrote that even took it that seriously themselves.
Yeah. Well, but who knows? Maybe conspiracies. Maybe they're trying to get funding for a Mayo Clinic downtown.
Well, I wonder if they know that it has nothing to do with mayonnaise, because it took me a long time to find that out.
I used to think that as well. I was like, why? What happens at the Mayo Clinic? Do they make mayonnaise? Do they smear people in mayonnaise to cure ailments?
It's therapeutic mayonnaise treatments. Actually, I read a quick sidebar. The Secret Professor was reading an interesting case in his files. Have you ever heard of the Therac 25 machine?
No.
It's like a really famous. It's taught in like computer science and computer ethics classes. It was like 1975 Canadian machine that they used to give people therapeutic doses of radiation for cancer.
Oh wow!
And in this particular model, in the previous model, they had built in a mechanical redundancy to make sure it didn't give anyone an overdose. But they did away with that redundancy and relied on software itself to not to be bug free and not give anyone an overdose. And there were like 6 cases where the machine, due to a software error, like a mistake in someone's code, gave 6 people got these massive overdoses. I think 4 of them died. 2 of them had really bad injuries. But it's like it's forever kind of like taught in like to engineers and people in that field to try and like talk about issues of like complexity in systems and ethics and all that stuff. I mean, maybe we need to like install in Oilers fans some kind of physical redundancy so that like the bullshit just doesn't get too much, and then the valve just breaks, and it's like, you know what? It's fine. Just give it a day,
Yeah, well, that's usually the thing. Give it a day, wait till the next game starts, and then
and
then go.
I mean, the of all the many cognitive biases involved in being a hockey fan or an Oilers fan, recency bias is a big one. So all we need is 1 or 2 games.
I think that's the biggest thing in any sport for probably any fan base. What's the last? And I understand, like, not everybody has the time to watch every single game. So I mean, if you'd been really busy in life and you'd seen 1 game out of the 11 or 13, and then you're like, oh wow, that Wednesday game against the Leafs, I finally got this time to sit down and watch, you'd be like, what? How'd this team beat anybody?
Yeah. I'm hockey is such a flow game. There's so much momentum swings. I mean, we could be looking at a completely different vibe to our team in like by the end of March. And also, the Toronto playing this well and that dominantly could also be a mirage, partially. Although it looks like they're a serious contender at this point.
I think they're good. Well, I think they're very good. But yeah, they also could be on a hot streak right now and be playing like they just looked like they thought they could do absolutely anything. Like just the way they were attacking and moving the puck up the ice, like it looked like they had no doubt that every pass and shot they took was going to be successful.
Do you
It
have
pretty much was.
do you have any feelings one way or the other vis-a-vis the people that lay some blame partially at the coaching staff's feet for not adjusting, quote unquote, etc.?
No, I
Or
think
maybe,
that's valid. I think that's valid. I mean, the coach has to. Here's the thing, I the line combination stuff gets very overemphasized, and
oh yeah,
I'm guilty of it because I go to a practice, and what do I see? The line combinations. I've never participated in an NHL practice, so I'm not always sure on what each individual drill is trying to accomplish. Sometimes but sometimes it's like, okay, well, there's skating and passing. I'm not sure if I'm gonna, So
mm.
the line combinations would have not scored them 13 extra goals in the last 3 games
Nah.
to win the total goal series or win a couple games.
Yeah.
But it is up to a coach to figure out something tactically, and I do think it's relevant to say, we had a caller last night who was saying, that Keefe out schemed Tippett, and he said Tippett didn't pay any attention to what the Leafs were doing, which I
Again,
disagreed with.
I'm
that
sure they were
argument.
paying intense
Because
attention.
of course,
Yeah.
they're not going to say that publicly. It's like
they don't pay you
noticed,
$4 million a year to be an NHL coach without paying close fucking attention to what the other team
Right.
is doing. But I mean,
But did he adapt, quickly enough? Was there a way to get McDavid the puck? Like we don't know,
Yeah.
or did he
Well,
have a way to get McDavid the puck, and they just kept failing to do it? I mean, that's the one.
Well, yeah.
I often go back to football when I talk about this kind of stuff, because football is such a, you set up, the play starts with a very static situation, right?
Mhm.
Offense lines up, defense lines up, then the play takes 5 seconds, right?
Mhm.
So, I've often had this discussion with Blake Dermott, who is our football analyst on Ched, and he says you can't just always criticize the play calling, because you don't know if the play was executed the way it was supposed to be. Like, if there's an incomplete pass, that wasn't the play call. They're trying to. So what did the defense do? Like, there might be some times where it's obviously like, my God, I can't believe they called that. So, and they're going off the tendencies of other teams and all that kind of stuff. So maybe Tippett did have a way where, okay, we got to get Connor the puck with more speed before the Leafs players are on him. And maybe the Oilers just continually, for some reason, didn't execute that. We don't really know.
I think it's really just it comes down to the Nuge not being on that line. We don't. It's like if you were playing EA Sports. I said this last episode. You need someone with a passing skill of at least 80, 85 on that line with Connor to get him the puck when he's got speed. Because if you're trying to pass to him with a passing skill of 78.5, it's not going to cut it. He needs he needs people who are capable of getting him the puck with speed. And we really, I'm at the point now, and I feel like I'm just repeating myself, everything I say, but I'm really at the point now where I don't want any more scratch tickets. I think this offseason, we really got to target 1 or 2 top 6 forwards and invest some money in some guys.
Keep Nugent Hopkins and do that, though.
I think so. I mean, with some other moves, I'm sure. I don't know. I mean, I think we something. I mean, I don't want to see that much flux in the bottom 6 forwards, but I want to see one bona fide, no more because Cahoon,
more proven than Cahoon.
More proven than Cahoon is not. That's not even that high a bar. I just feel like we've been setting the bar at, okay, well, maybe there's a $1 million guy who we can play with Connie, and then he'll score a bunch of points and it'll be great value, a la Crosby and et cetera, so forth. But at a certain point, it's just like, you know what? Both Connie and Dry should have expert passers and playmakers on their wings, at least on one wing, because both of them can score like crazy when they can get the puck. I literally have no idea who's the answer, assuming the Dynamite line stays together a few more games. Puljujarvi is fine, but Neil, I don't think is going to get the job done.
Here's the thing that at least is maybe somewhat encouraging, and I'm not trying to deflect from the fact that they got their asses kicked 3 games in a row. At least now we're talking about the Oilers going from here to here. We're not talking about them going from here to here.
Totally.
They're legitimately. Yeah. I mean, I think there's in any given year there are probably 4 to 7 teams that are elite. Depending on the year. And then honestly, probably between 8 to 22 might be like, I do think it's that big of a jump. Like, is
Mm.
there, over an 82 game season, is there that much of a difference between a team that makes the playoffs by 4 points and misses by 4 points? I don't think
Yeah.
there is.
Yeah.
That's one good 2-week stretch. That's one injury to a star player.
Mm-hmm.
That's one hot stretch or cold stretch on the
Yeah.
power play. And to me, that's where the Oilers are at. Like, they're a middle of the pack team. Maybe, I'd like to think maybe a little closer to the top of the middle of the pack. If
I'd put them in like top 10 or 12 probably at this point, which is, we're work in progress. I just feel like, me personally, I kind of got too used to the idea of them performing at like a really, really high level, because I think also, again, it comes back to what you were talking about before. It's not rational. You just want it so much. Before we go though, I did want to ask you about the latest Twitter brouhaha.
I think I haven't seen it because I don't spend a lot of time there, right?
Well, it's the Rob Chakowski question from from Grass Settles thing everyone's talking about. I'm sure you've seen that.
Live.
Yeah, you exactly.
We played that live. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, to be honest, like my only kind of like hot take on it is he's the player's super frustrated, and I don't mind some aggressive sarcasm once in a while. And to be honest, like, if I don't hear any more, there's like certain questions that I think don't bring enough, don't have a possibility of bringing that much new information to the conversation. A lot of them are just asking about degrees of either disappointment or satisfaction. How good does it feel for this? How bad does it feel? How disappointing? And it's like, you're going to get an interesting answer 1 out of 100 times with a lot of those questions. So at the same time, reporters have a tough job. I think the NHL players are coached, especially the North American players are coached vis-a-vis their like media style, probably to a fault. But it's funny to me that, like, I also feel like Rob was probably just really fucking frustrated and dejected about the losses too. And there's that unknown territory between, like you said before, being a reporter and being a fan. And I wonder how much of like when a reporter asks how disappointing was it to have have our asses handed to us in 3 straight games, it's like he wants like his frustration almost to be validated somehow. I don't know
if that'd be the case with Titch, but I do understand what you're saying. I mean, I don't do Oilers post game interviews anymore. I used to go into the dressing room, but I haven't done that for years. Yeah, you're right. It's varying degrees of how do you feel or what happened.
Yeah.
So I don't. I mean, really, I don't. As someone who has to ask questions a lot for a living, I don't really fault anybody asking a question. And sometimes you do have to ask the obvious question because you might get a great answer. And it has happened plenty of times to me in my career where I've asked what I thought, I've had a note or I've been doing a live interview on my show and something's popped into my head. And then I've been like, that might be a stupid question. And then I've thought, just trust yourself, just ask it. It occurred to you, maybe it occurred to somebody else. And sometimes you ask that question and you get an amazing answer because it allows someone to further their thought or continue a story. And then, sometimes it just goes nowhere. Now, after a game, clearly you have an emotional and disappointed and frustrated player. I mean, I don't mind. So Titch asked it. Leon gave the sarcastic answer. Like, to me, it's not a big deal. Like,
exactly. It's not a big deal at all.
It wasn't Titch trying to be an asshole or be aggressive. And like,
no, and he dialed it back a little bit afterwards on Twitter and said, I was annoyed at the shortness of the first reply, blah 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 blah. And it's, I was actually surprised how much hay people were making like how much they were talking about it on Twitter today, because it's like, guys, like, we're all just like, wait 1 or 2 days, we can put this behind us.
Yeah, that's just and things get. Yeah, but I understand both sides of it, and I mean I also understand what's Leon supposed to say? Like, they lost. Like, he knows it's, as much as they want depth players, he knows it's his job to score, get points pretty much every game. So I mean, sure, could have he if Leon was in a different mood or if it was a different player. Here's the thing, and that's why I would say you still have to ask that question, even though it might seem obvious and annoying. You might get a great answer. You might get a player who says, you know what, this really sucks, but I remember when I was playing junior in whatever town, and I didn't have a point in my first 6 games of the season, and my parents came to town, and I had dinner with my parents, and my dad looked at me and said, "Hey, everybody believes in you. And so I'm going to go home and call my dad." I mean, imagine if you got a clip like that after the game. So
sure,
I get it, and it's live. Like, everything's live and unedited now. I mean, back in when we were kids in the 80s, like, you'd read Matheson's article the next day, and you'd get the little 6-word quote, and you'd think that's all the players said, whereas all the extra stuff was cut out. So, but that's the thing with this team. Like, everything is not just analyzed, but over analyzed, including sometimes the way the team is covered.
Sure.
And I mean, I've been there. Like, I've had total, like, questions that are just like, well, that was stupid and everybody heard it, but whatever. Like, I don't really let it bother me. I think with Leon, and Leon can be a lot more prickly than some other players too. Like, he will shut it down, as opposed to other guys might give you the generic answer.
I love it. I kind of love it, to be honest.
I agree. And he's done it to me. He's done it when I've been in scrums, and it doesn't really bother me, because we say, well,
goes with the territory, right?
If you want a player to show personality, sometimes you're going to get the dark side as well. So if sometimes he thinks the line of questioning is full of shit and he wants to shut it down, I don't care. Like, I really don't take it personally. Like,
can you imagine if we had a Tortorella-esque personality, either on the coaching staff or like among the players, who just like really flew off? Because
that wouldn't work in Edmonton.
It wouldn't. No, people would not stand for it at all.
Well, I don't know.
Like, remember what was the reporter he just shouted? He shouted back at him and said, "Yeah, I guess I'm not going to answer your question, Brucey. So fuck off."
That was in New York.
Brooksy, yeah.
But here's the thing with the Tortorella stuff. See, if that happened to me or to a group of us that often with a coach, especially with the coach, because I think a player, after a while, like, you can just be like, "I'm just not going to go in the scrum." Right now we're on Zoom, but with a coach, I think at some point that would have to be addressed, where you either talk to him one-on-one or you get the media person to mediate, where you say, "Look, I am not here to irritate you, but you may not like my questions, but I'm not attacking you. So if you don't want to answer them, that's fine. You can brush aside my questions and give 5-second answers. But if you're gonna jab back at me, then to me that's a problem. That would have to be, because now, and I'm not saying that there aren't reporters that probably push Tortorella's buttons, for example, but like, and here's my problem with Tortorella. He's a very good quote when he wants to be, and when he needs something put out, and when he doesn't feel like talking, it's like, fuck off. I'm just going to be a dick at the podium today. That's what bugs me about him a little bit, is he wants it both ways, right? He wants to get the clip out there when he feels like it, but he doesn't want to spend any time at the mic when he's in a bad mood.
Yeah. That's media manipulation is not a good look. Yeah, I don't think that would really work in like any Canadian market that much. Maybe the only one it could possibly work in is Toronto a little bit, but only in like a tiny little short burst. Because there's something sadomasochistic about the Toronto media market in my mind. I wanted to ask you before I let you go. Thanks so much for coming back on. One of our favorite guests. I don't know if I ever told you this, but the first time we recorded with you, that was one of my all-time proudest life achievements up until that point. So,
well, that seems a little odd, but thanks for saying that.
Isn't that kind of horrifying? I mean, from your perspective, I'm sure. But I wanted to ask you. I think it's pretty obvious, and hopefully he's working through it and getting better. But it seems like Leon's playing a little hurt. Yamo has gone a little cold. Still forechecking well and stuff, but offensively. Seems to have lost a little bit of his juice. And then Nuge, I feel like he's kind of middling between being his normal dynamic self and being a little cold himself. So really, like, can we expect the Dynamite line to be really that productive? Should we maybe like temper our expectations that line is going to be a thing going forward, especially when it leaves Connor bereft of any
wingers. They're not together on Saturday.
Yeah.
Just to give Connor a winger again.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think in a weird way, like, I think we were all so fixated on that line not getting put back together that it could actually be very good for us to have had. And maybe we'll see them for a few more games, and I think that'll be fine. But if they get put back together and it doesn't work, maybe we'll realize, oh, maybe there was a reason it got broke up in the first place too.
Right, which is to give Connor a better winger. That is the reason. I mean, listen, like Rob says that every game when people ask, like, Connor needs a winger because other guys don't get him the puck.
Yeah. No, it's just it doesn't work. Cool. Well, what are you working on for Inside Sports, and where can people follow you? Like, what can you tell the good people?
At Reid Wilkins, ReidWilkins. Though unless they DM me, I won't tweet back to them because I don't look. I don't look for what people are saying to me, so I apologize if that seems aloof or distant. But I'm a distant. What was Reid like as a host? He was distant. And then my show is on 6 to 8 weeknights when there's no hockey game on 6:30. Ched, you can listen online. You can get a podcast if you want to. Actually, Brownie's coming on tonight. We got Dylan Gunther from the Wilkins on tonight, and see what else we can cook up. I want to talk about this new overtime proposal in the NFL too. That sounds kind of weird.
Oh, interesting.
You get the spot and choose. The one team will choose the starting yard line, and the other team will choose whether to be on offense or defense. It's just a proposal. Yeah.
Wow.
It's just a proposal right now, but yeah.
Oh, that sounds like great stuff. I'll have to tune in for sure. And then for those listening, you can check us out on YouTube. We're now on YouTube in a sexily visual format. Just search for us there. We're also on Patreon now. We're going to be doing some special bonus monthly episodes, and I've put some mixtapes up for those of you that enjoy the music. So, Reid, what do you think? Do you think people should go to patreon.com/Handkerchief Dynasty and become a patron today?
Yes.
Okay, good answer. And then the people can also check out our sister podcast, Night Rule, if they're interested in a politics and kind of culture podcast. So, yeah, I don't know if you know of Night Rule, but I probably started that since we last talked too, Reid.
That's the first time I've heard of it.
Yeah, that's also on Patreon at patreon.com/Night Rule, and then the Twitter for that is @PodRule.
Sounds tawdry.
It is very tawdry because a night rule is like a night dance or carnivalesque, like bacchanal, right? So it is it's a little edgy, yeah. But we've had a lot of good guests on there. People probably know Ben Burgess, Dave Griscom, Harvey J.K., Nomiki Konst from the Majority Report. Yeah, I've had some really great guests on that show. That's been a really fun time so far. So, and I'm gearing up to get that on YouTube soon as well. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm proud of you.
I'm proud of you. Okay, dude. Well, thanks so much for taking the time. Next time I'll make sure I have the High Priest of Orther's Magic chained to the podium so he can't leave, regardless of what kind of familial duties might interfere. And yeah, for everyone on YouTube, please like and subscribe, share us with your friends. Don't be afraid to neglect your more pressing responsibilities to help promote the show. We really appreciate that. Okay, dude. I'll be in touch, and I'll look forward to listening to your show tonight.
Okay. Thanks for asking me.
Yeah. Take care.
Okay. See you.